Do you read me?
Be advised, you're coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Com Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me? Over.
Pacho, this is Com Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence the field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. I say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! Hurrah! Get some. What's going on there? Interface land out there here on the interwebs, coming to you live right here from our studios in Doha. Today we got a really, really great show. But before we get started, first of all, I'd like to say that, just like always, my thoughts and opinions sometimes may not align with, with our great hosts of Sitch Radio, StreamYard, and all the other companies that help us put this podcast together. And, or you, the listener, as well. So, just like this is freedom of speech. And, you have the option to keep moving on if you don't like what you hear. But if you do, then tune in, because we've got a really, really, really cool show today. Today we have a great individual who not only is a family member of mine, but he is also currently serving first started in the Air Force. Now he's moved on to the Space Force, and his name is Kaoru Elliott, Major Active Duty. So let's go ahead and bring him on the show, and let's get this baby started.
Hey,
what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Just right here in our great studios in Doha. It's quite a little bit of late in the evening for me, but your day back home is barely beginning. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you invited me. Thank you.
So let's go ahead and why don't we just get this party going? So hey, tell us, how was it you got started in the service? What branch are you serving on right now?
Yeah, so right now I'm in the Space Force, but before I get there, I guess I should go back a bit. So I did JROTC as a kid in high school, and the reason I decided to do JROTC was because we had the option of either taking PE or JROTC, and I was like, I don't want to do PE. I was just a small, scrawny kid, so I decided to go ahead and do that. So I did Navy JROTC for my first year, which was a horrible decision if that was why I did it, because we did PT, which was way more stringent than PE. So, but after that, we moved. And then so for my sophomore through senior year of high school, I did Air Force JROTC. And so I kind of lived and breathed JROTC. And that's what I was doing first thing in the morning, go straight to the JROTC room and then go to class. And then at the end of the day, go right back to it, doing some drill, PT still again. And then, I was trying to figure out what to do next with my life. And then so looked at potential options for what I wanted to do, and decided to apply for a ROTC scholarship. I also tried to get in the academy as well. So fall, I applied and I got into the University of Arizona. And I got in with a scholarship. So I'm like, okay, great. Here's my backup plan. I'm going to try to go to the academy next. And then I started doing the application for the academy. And then I was doing the applications for the UC schools because we were in California. And I started doing the application. And then the lazy kid thing kicked in. And I'm like, well, I already filled out all this information. I don't know if I want to do it again. So then I stopped. And then I tried to get into the academy. But I wasn't as well-rounded. I had really good grades, but I only did JROTC. I didn't do all the other extracurricular activities, which I think would have been good for me as well, because I was a shy little kid. And so I stuck with what I knew, which was doing the hit in the school and then doing the JROTC with my friends, and that was it. But I got accepted I got a Air Force ROTC scholarship. And so with that, I went to the University of Arizona to study my computer engineering degree.
Right.
And that's how I kind of started.
It's as a former recruiter, and last week I had a really good buddy of mine who, him and I, back in the day, I guess you could say, in '06, we were both recruiters out in San Diego. And, one of the things that we was one of the biggest sellers for me, uh, along with, there was a program called the Platoon Leaders Course, PLC program. I mean, I used to sell that like it was hotcakes. But next to that was the JROTC program, which it's a great opportunity for kids to kind of taste feel the waters to see if this is something that they want to get into, especially if the excuse me, if the high school um, has some type of JROTC program. But even colleges, and even in the Marine, applying for the Navy JROTC scholarships. I mean, those, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's the same in the Air Force. I mean, it's very competitive, especially for, the college program. That's what I'm mainly referring now. I mean, it's very competitive. So, I mean, you do get a better quality product as far as applicants go, not only, from the high school level, because they're somewhat programmed as to, what to expect. They can PT. You can maybe yell at them, put a realistic factor to it, just not too much, but just enough. And plus, when they're going through boot camp or officer candidate school, the attrition rate level is not as, you can retain them because, again, they've already kind of been somewhat through some of the indoctrination. Did you feel somewhat prepared? I know nothing can prepare you, I mean, as a whole, but did you feel a little bit more prepared than your counterparts when you were going through the program?
I think I was a little bit. Again, at this point, it's now been like 16 years, and so it's a bit hazy.
Yeah.
I was working full time, going to school, and going to school, so it was everything kind of just blended together a little bit. As I look back at my time during college, I'm like, I don't know where that time went, and I don't know how I made it through, because I look back at some of the homework and the essays that I wrote, because I still have them, and I'm like, I don't remember doing this at all. So
like everything just blended right through.
yeah.
Just wait once you've moved on from this career onto other post service, and then you're gonna be like, holy shit, where did all the time go? Because it goes by just like that.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a podcast by then. I don't know. Not that I'm planting the seeds or anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, so yeah, it's amazing that you feel like you're going through this grinder, so to speak, to get to a certain level. I mean, I came through the enlisted ranks, so it's a little bit different. We don't. I guess those of us who came, I guess the same way I did. We went through that through a different grinder, so to speak, through enlisted ranks, but trying to achieve a goal and so on and so forth. So I guess we missed out on those days of, fraternity, so on and so forth, and then going through OCS. But nonetheless, I mean, both career paths, I mean, they have, I'm sure they have their challenges, and I know you have in your career, but you've also had a pretty interesting career as well. I mean, going through the Air Force and you being bilingual, and you speak fluent Japanese, correct?
I think so.
Well, I know I've heard you mom talk. So, but what I'm getting at is that you've had the opportunity through the Air Force to go to Japan and be part of these programs. Where to keep honing your language to better skills. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you participated? Because of the fact that you're bilingual, and being Japanese yourself.
Yeah, and that's kind of some of the great, not necessarily unadvertised, but harder to find opportunities in the military, is that there's all these interesting niches where you can take advantage of the great opportunities that come up. And that was something I was able to take advantage of early on. And so while I was still on ROTC, the Air Force started a program called the Language Enabled Airmen Program, which was a way that they were trying to not just have linguists, but also have members throughout the Air Force that were, language capable in various languages. So that way, if a need emerged, that there were a lot of people that weren't necessarily doing that as their primary duty, but maybe were available to support in an augmenting fashion. And so that kind of sounded fascinating to me. Up until that point, I didn't really think about my Japanese. It was just a part of, I spoke with my mom and my grandma in Japanese, but I didn't think of it as an asset really. But I applied for it and I was able to get in. And so the interesting thing is, so I graduated college, I commissioned. I was on reserve time for a little while because I didn't go active for a couple months. But as soon as I went active, I showed up at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico. So I get there as a brand new lieutenant, as a butter bar, right? So already I've got, eyes on me. And I get there and I'm like, hey, I know I just got here, but in 3 weeks, I'm going to go to Japan. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, you just got here. You're supposed to be learning your new job. It's like, oh, I got this new opportunity. And so I had to kind of rush through and get all of my accounts set up and figure out my trip out to Japan. And then I went out there. And so I was out there for a month. And so for a month, I did I don't remember what it was called back then, but nowadays it would be called a language immersion training event. And that's where, it's one thing to learn the language in the textbook in a classroom where it's kind of structured and you're just going down the line. But it's another thing when you're using it on a day-to-day basis, or you're getting absorbed in the culture as well. And that's what that opportunity was. And this was the first time where I was kind of going back as my job to kind of dive deep into the language and to the culture and kind of see what the differences are and make sure that I was good to go. And so, I went out there and I went to a language school while I was in Japan. I stayed with a host family and they were showing me around some of the local events and would take me places. And I was able to just practice my language and practice absorbing the culture around me. And so that was a very great opportunity. And that's something that I've been able to take advantage of during my whole time. So with that program, I've gone back to Japan multiple times. And each time the level, I guess, of intensity kind of went up. So the second time I went back to a language school, but the third time I had a power immersion, which was where I stayed with the instructor. And so I had one-on-one instruction with the instructor, and I would get personalized lessons, which was very helpful for me because even though I'm proficient, it wasn't on a professional level to where I was learning all of the words that I needed to. And so it was a great opportunity there. So that was a program that I was able to take advantage of, which I'm glad that I'm doing.
No, and I think it's great. I think a lot of us, when we join the service, obviously we're not, the folks out in the private sector, they're only privy to so much information, and this is a great opportunity to highlight some of the great things that that are available to service members who have a special capability, special language, or skill or trade that, because those opportunities do exist in the service where you could take advantage of, like in your case, you do have a special, a language that is in need, is, not only used for business purposes, but also because we do have a great ties and relationship, with the country of Japan. I know that for a fact because I served, with the team at Camp Fuji, Japan, and our counterparts literally across the street was the Takigahara forces. And we used to have an exchange program all the time. Great dudes, by the way. They love to drink. They can sure as hell party. Boninkai, Boninsai, all that good stuff. I mean, those are some of my best times. But being able, for yourself, being able to, go to Japan, get to see some of your extended family over there, which I know because I know you still have family members over there, and plus immerse yourself in the culture. I mean, that's pretty cool. I almost got the chance to do something similar, being a Colombian citizen myself, or dual citizenship. I almost got selected as an officer. At one point I applied there was an opportunity to go to Colombia, but I think I forgot what was going. Well, the war on terrorism was going on, so it got canked. So I wasn't able to go. And let me tell you, I was bummed. But that's pretty neat. And you've also been able to go to different schools as well. And I know you got to participate in was it the language school up at Monterey? You got to go to Monterey for a while too, and to work on your degree and so on and so forth, right?
Yes. And so that was what I was doing last. I was picked up while I was in the Air Force to be a foreign area officer. So I was in the training pipeline. And as a part of that, I came in already with language proficiency. And so I actually didn't have to do the language portion. I did have to prove my language capability, of course.
Yeah.
But as a part of that as well, I went to Monterey to the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, and I got a degree in security studies for the Pacific Asia region. And so that was kind of my job, is to go in there and kind of learn about the government and security of some of the countries in the region, and learn about some of the just become more worldly, have some more a picture of the political, military, informational, economic, like all of that, get a better picture, not just on the military aspect of it, but a government as a whole and as a country as a whole, and learn about their history as well. And so it was a really great opportunity. While I was there, I also had the opportunity to do a exchange program with the Middlebury Institute, which is another college that's in the area. And I took a course that was in Japanese, which was a great opportunity as well.
Wow. So at this point in time, so I know you were going through your career in the Air Force and such. So at what point did they? I know the Trump administration was talking about, and they were like, "Hey, we're looking at implementing these things, with coming up with this sister agency, so to speak, called the Space Force," which I thought it was the coolest thing ever. All I could think of, and I'm dating myself, Starship Troopers and all that stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but by the way, they are Marines. I'm just saying. But how did this come about, and how how did you get augmented into it? What was it? Can you expand just on some of that process, or how did you hear about it? And like, hey, yeah, I'll do that.
So I've been fortunate in my career where just kind of opportunities keep popping up and I'm able to take advantage of it. And one of the interesting things I think about looking back at my career is that I have a very diverse background. So I came in as an engineer. And so I had a computer engineering degree, and I was picked up to be a developmental engineer. And that's why I went to Kirtland Air Force Base. At my assignment, I was in charge of teams that would develop tools that would allow for some training and simulators. And so I was doing that. And that was a special opportunity because that was my operational tour, where I was actually doing something kind of in the operations area, doing training. But for the next assignment, it would have required me to go to what's called a program office. And I would have worked on some cool programs, but I'm kind of a kinetic person. And so I like to be doing things. And so I was looking for opportunities that would allow me to expand what careers that I was participating in. And so while I was doing that duty, I had volunteered to go instruct at officer training school. And so I went to Montgomery, Alabama, and I was there for 3 years first as an instructor, and then as a course director, helping kind of guide the curriculum for the whole class. But that was a special duty. And so that would have required me then to go back into the engineering career field. And so while I was there, I was also keeping an eye out for other opportunities that would come up. And so an opportunity came up where they were looking for volunteers to come into the space career field at that point. And so while I was there, I volunteered, I applied, and I got accepted. So I finished out my time at officer training school. And then I went to do training again, which was as a mid-level captain, going through training again with some of these smart young kids, it was a little bit hard keeping up with them in terms of all the new space stuff, because space wasn't really in my realm of interest initially, but I was like, oh, this looks like a great opportunity. And now that I've been in, it's been a great opportunity, and I've had a lot of good fun. But I got transferred over. and I was still in the Air Force. This was still before the Space Force, and I did my training, and I became a operator for the GPS constellation, um, which is something that I think a lot of people aren't aware of. Is that GPS, the constellation, is actually managed by the Air Force, and
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, and it's a free service that's provided to everyone. And so that's something that a lot of people aren't aware of. And when they think of Space Force, of course, there's a lot of images come up for people when they hear Space Force. But GPS is a thing that everyone interacts with, and you don't notice it when it's working because it's working. But then when it's not
Right.
working, that's when you start noticing. And our job is to make, or the job at the unit I was at was to make sure that you don't notice, and that was kind of the big thing there. And so while I was there, that's when a lot of the discussions came about the maybe the need for the Space Force. And then I got picked up for the FAO program, the Foreign Area Officer program.
Right.
And so I got picked up, and I was doing my academics, and that's when the call came out to transition. So you could either stay in the Air Force, or you could choose to go into the Space Force because it's an all volunteer force. And so that was when I kind of had to weigh my options and figure out, what I wanted to do. And after talking to a few mentors and some of the leadership, I made the decision to go ahead and transfer over. And so I went in and I applied. You basically put your package together to show your performance and show how you're doing. I also was a space operator, so that's probably a big plus in terms of doing things in the Space Force. And so that's how I was brought over into the Space Force.
That's amazing, man. I don't know if it's the same in the excuse me, in the Air Force, but I know in the Marine Corps they used to preach never volunteer for anything. I mean, absolutely nothing. That was because there's a connotation, negative connotation behind that. You'll get stuck with some type of bad duty or station or whatever. But I mean, I know I volunteer for a lot of this stuff, and you're the other example as well. That hey, when you roger up for some of these interesting opportunities, I mean, it will play in play out in your favor, and then as well as give you that diversity that we all need. I mean, because even though I mean you I joined the service to travel and see different stuff and whatever else may come. We there were those people that were just kicking and screaming when they had to go to PCS to a duty station, or they just wanted to homestead where they were at. I'm like, what a wasted opportunity. So, but it seems thus far, I mean, it's been paying big dividends, especially in the space for. I mean, what a great opportunity. In this day and age of technology, all the cool things that are coming out and being developed, and that being part of the program that you get to see, especially at your job, because you're currently working at the Pentagon, so looking at some of these programs. Is that correct?
Yes. And so right now in my position, I am working with international partnerships in the Indo-Pacific region. So that's kind of what I'm responsible for. So as a part of that, I am putting together some plans and looking at all the efforts that we have going on in the service in terms of how are we, maximizing our effectiveness by working with our partners to see where we can collaborate. Because, I mean, it's a very important thing to be working on in terms of working with our partners. So.
Yeah. So, and then what a lot of people, and from the reading that I've done in preparation, I mean, this is not the Space Force. I guess the name of it is, it may be new, but I mean, this has been a thought process and something that's been going on for many years. Is that right?
Yes, it's been going on for a long time, and I think the big thing is that we're education and just kind of getting that message out there. And the thing about the Space Force 2 is like, because it's a new service and there's a lot of new things going on, I can only speak to what I'm seeing because I can talk to my
Right.
friends and they're working in a totally different place. They're working on all sorts of cool stuff as well. but that makes it a little bit hard, I think, sometimes to be able to convey what it is that we're doing. So like in my field, I'm really focused on like relationships and partnerships with our allies and partners. And so I don't have as much insight into like the technical advances that are going on as we try to get new technologies and stuff. And so to me, it's still like I'm discovering new things too. Like even though I'm involved, I get to learn about more things from other people that are, more subject matter experts than I am, or actually getting to do those things. So that's been really exciting.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, even when I was in, I started, obviously we're very different fields. I mean, I started as a vehicle maintainer, as a mechanic for diesel equipment, all rolling stock. I remember when, just a basic Humvees, basic, 5-ton trucks. And then we started getting phased in with all this new equipment, the MTVRs, which is a motor transport vehicle replacement. Basically, it's a computerized vehicle. I mean, and literally all this equipment, with the war on terrorism, and because as the battlefield is fluid. We had to change. We were in an austere environment where there was no AC, so we equipped our vehicles with ACs. Now with computers, this, that, and these things were being fielded with, no kidding, tough book laptops that you had to be very well diverse and knowledgeable in computers to be able to maintain this equipment. Whereas, so the whole, oh, I'm a dumb grunt, which there is no such thing. Because those folks in the infantry field and even in the mechanic field, I mean, you have to know your stuff, be computer literate, among other things, in order to be able to stay abreast with, the technology and all the things that are being fielded. So, being able to discover, and like even you yourself, I mean, you just said it right there, that there's just so many things that you're learning as you're going with this job, that it's like you feel like a fat kid in a candy store, like, oh my God, this is really cool, huh? Especially doing cross pollination with with, I'm sure, with other agencies and such. Can you talk a little bit about that and some of the partnerships that you guys work with?
Yeah. So, I mean, the space is a global thing, right? It's not like I can claim my piece and that's like it. And so because of that, we work with our close partners. And for me, because my portfolio is in the Indo-Pacific, it'll be there are folks that are or countries that are in the space game right now that have capabilities, and there are those that are trying to build up on it. And so there's going to be countries like Australia, Japan, Republic of Korea, and then you've got like this along Southeast Asia as well. They're kind of new into the game, but we also want to be partners with them. And that's kind of the big thing, is that with space, we want to. It's not just the U.S. itself can't just do it, and so the Space Force is realizing that, and we are working on just expanding our partnerships with a lot of people and a lot of countries as well, to do it as a group effort rather than just solely going at it.
Right. And working with those partnerships and JTFs, joint task forces, I know that's one of the things that one of the silver linings about this whole war on terrorism, even though the whole JTF process is not a new it's not a new concept, but being able to work together with not only with your counterparts from the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Air Force as well, and the Army, so on and so forth, but working with those partnerships, from East Asia, South America, so on and so forth. That's we all got to be able to do that, because for example, with all the work that's been done over the years in the Middle East, I mean, that's not just been the United States manning that effort. I mean, that's been other nations participating in that. So I'm sure it's the same thing, being able to monitor and whatever, and do our part, working together with these other nations to be sure that not only is the U.S. is protected, but in all the other territories as well. It's got to, because I mean, whether the enemy is foreign, domestic, or from somewhere else, I mean, you got to be able to, with those partnerships. I mean, I guess teamwork is what makes the dream work, so to speak.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I do want to, it's funny you mentioned about the whole GPS. For one, I didn't know that it was you guys or the Air Force as well, that basically, I guess, man that, those services. And you're right, we don't think about it. We're just like, oh, hey, let me just power up my phone and it works. Woohoo! Hey, Uber, come bring me my chow. You know what I mean? But I did know that that was a military application that later on it was released to the private sector. I did learn that from, I don't know if you remember the TV show on Nat Geo, Tactical to Practical. It was with this guy from the Navy. But yeah, I did learn that, but I didn't know that it was you guys' area of responsibility to man that. So, it's very cool to know and find out that, that our sister agencies, it's all a big part of this puzzle, for the support that, makes the mission basically that we achieve the mission. You know, what do you see next in the next adventures that, as part of, in your career path? What opportunities do you see for yourself? Can you just talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and so like you mentioned, I volunteer for things, which makes it a little bit harder to think about what might come up, because a volunteer is always based on the opportunities that pop up, right place, right
Right.
time, kind of aspect of it. And so I actually don't know. The funny thing is, before I got into my current position, I always did kind of know, because I was volunteering for things kind of early. I kind of knew where I was kind of going next, and that, okay, once I finish this, I'll go to the next spot. And I think now that I've gotten here, this is the first place where I don't know what's kind of coming up next. And so, but yeah, so I don't quite know yet. And especially getting here new into this position, I'm like hitting the ground running, trying to make sure that I understand what's going on, what are the next steps, just in the position now that I haven't had a opportunity really to think about what I kind of want to do next yet. I do know that I want to continue serving for sure, but yeah, I'm not quite sure yet. Because again, the other thing too is that like I mentioned, I've had such a diverse career field, and that I've been working in space, but my space experience is limited to GPS operations, and so it would be nice to be able to explore maybe some of the other aspects of space.
Right, and be able to branch and get to know, a little bit more about, your branch, because I mean, I think that even the leadership is, we're all learning as we go. I'm sure that's how they feel, especially with this, now it has a name stamped to it. Hey, we're the Space Force, so that's pretty cool. What would you tell yourself, or young Lieutenant Kaoru Elliott? If you had an opportunity to meet that individual, what would you go ahead and relate to that individual?
I think I would tell him to enjoy the people that you work with, which I've had the opportunity of meeting some great people while I've been in, and I've done, I think, a decent job of making sure that I enjoy my time. So in The Office, there's that little quote that says, "I wish I knew it was the good old times while I was in it," kind of aspect of it. And I've kind of been taking that into mind. So everywhere I go, the people that you make connections with, especially with how the military is, right? Even if you just got there, someone might be leaving, even after you make a connection. So it's not just you moving, it's everyone else moving aspect of it. And so, every day, just make sure it's important to be serious and get stuff done, but it's also good to enjoy your time and enjoy the people around you, and let yourself breathe. That is something that I would need to tell myself, it's okay to breathe. It's okay to relax a little bit.
Yeah, no, I know, and I know you work hard, play hard as well. And what would you tell service as a current service member who is going through the process right now? What advice would you give an active duty service member as far as their career goes as a whole, from your experience?
Yeah. Well, I've had to do this a lot at officer training school in terms of kind of given the future. I think the things to keep in mind is it's easy to see all the bad that happens and like be like, oh, work hours are long and it's really tough. And it's going to be, right? That's when we take the oath and say, hey, we're going in, you're making the commitment that, yes, I'm going to have some rough times, and that's good. But it's also good to have an idea of where you want to go and what you want to do, but be open to other opportunities. And then I think everyone says this, right? Plant where you're, bloom where you're planted, right? Yes, maybe that opportunity might not be the best thing right now, but it's the things that travel with you with your reputation. And you've got to show no matter where you go that, you're willing to work hard whenever you get the opportunity, right? So if you can cherish when those opportunities aren't the most ideal for you, then when you do get those opportunities that line up better with what you thought you wanted to do, that's going to be great too. And also keep an open mind, because there were, when I volunteered for OTS and went to Alabama, it was a very different environment for me. I've been living in the Southwest for such a long time. I didn't know what to expect, but I had a great old time. And so, always kind of have a North Star that you're striving for, but just realize even if you don't quite get where you want to, you can still make it work. You've got people around you that'll help as well. And, it's okay to ask for help and see if what you're doing is right or if you need to readjust. But, most things you can flex from. Like, you need to be flexible, I think, is the big thing.
Yeah, we used to call that, in the Marine Corps, Semper Gumby, always flexible. Kaoru, it's been a pleasure and an honor. And by the way, thanks for your service, my friend. But thanks for so much for joining us in our show. And by the way, tell Major Mercurio that I didn't grill you too hard, and I appreciate I really appreciate them giving you the thumbs up to be able to come on our show. But thanks a lot. Appreciate you, and hey, can we bring you back sometime down the road?
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. I definitely love to come back and talk more.
That's awesome. Well, everybody, first of all, we want to thank Major Kaoru Elliott for joining us. I want to give a shout out to the P. She's looking at the show, as well as Mr. Basant, all the way back in Konas. But hey, everybody, if you have any questions and would like to find out more about the Space Force and what opportunities, not only there and any other branch services are there, I would say go talk to your local military personnel advisor, and get some information on there, and also do your research also online. But talk to them, because there are many opportunities that are available to you. Not only to go on the enlisted side, you could go on the officer side. And many other things that would just broaden your horizon, give you that diversity. And who knows, maybe you'll find yourself doing a podcast after you retire, after 21 plus years of service. But with that being said, everybody, we're going to go ahead and end this right over here, because, hey, I'm signing off and I am out of here. Hurrah! Get some. Semper Fi, everybody.